Hello there, and welcome to the Roots Project podcast with me, Ollie Boone. And today we're joined with Steve Jones, the founder of Sector 39. Steve's been working in permaculture for over 25 years and has held multiple permaculture design courses over here in Wales and all over the world. He's fresh back from Uganda, and we're just going to get some insights into what permaculture is and the role that it plays in the world today. So, firstly, Steve, hello and welcome.
Hi, great to be here, Ollie. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. First, could we start by just getting a little bit of background on you, Steve, and how you first came across permaculture?
Gosh, well, I guess in 1991, it happened to be in Zimbabwe and got involved in permaculture, small permaculture farm there, and that was when I first kind of got infected with the ideas. And discovered that there was a training centre there in Harare, Fambids and I did my first course, I think it was in 1991, so officially when I say I got involved. And then, came back and got involved in projects in the UK, and then eventually we started Chicken Shack, a housing cooperative in mid Wales in 95, so that's coming up to 22 years old now, that's an alarming fact. But there you go, yeah, so it's been an interesting journey, I can tell you that.
Wow. And Sector 39, could you give us a little overview of to what Sector 39 does, where it's located? And
well, sure. Well, part of my history is I worked for a development education organisation based in Reading, called Reading International Solidarity. And when was it? The early 2000s, 2002, they invited me to go back and work with them to put a permaculture design forest garden on the rooftop of their building in central Reading, which is at 39 London Street. And from that, we actually got a contract, myself and a colleague, Dave Richards, we got a contract to build educational, environment-friendly, permaculture forest gardens at a series of schools in Reading. So we called ourselves Sector 39 because it was sort of emanating from 39 London Street and, permaculture's zones and sectors. And sector is a wild energy, it's like a natural force of nature. So I like the idea of that. And so Sector 39 has always been about permaculture education and taking permaculture into new places and confronting people with those ideas who perhaps wouldn't think about them, and also about trying to bring together practitioners and enthusiasts together so that we can, create a guild and support each other to be more effective.
Cool. This idea of the guild, it's a really interesting concept that I guess it's found kind of throughout nature, of different kind of plants working together in symbiosis. Could you kind of explain, elaborate a little bit more about how the guild might be applied on more of a kind of community level and through different organisations?
None of us exist as individuals. Community ecology is made by the relationships between things. So we kind of have to understand that we're surrounded by a web of relationships, and that's what makes things work. So the idea of the guild, when I'm teaching about it, I like to say, well, look, if you've got a football team and everybody wants to be the goalie, you haven't really got a team, have you? We all play different roles, and we contribute to each other and support each other in different ways. So to be effective as an enterprise, especially if you're trying to, innovate and break new ground and stuff, it's hard, and you need to be in a supportive environment where you've got, you've got a range of different, people, support structures, social structures, and so forth, intellectual, emotional structures to help you achieve those goals. It's difficult doing what we're trying to do. You can't, and to a certain extent. So, I'm involved in housing cooperatives, and housing cooperatives help create affordable housing. It helps create housing for people who are perhaps working in more innovative areas, and people who are interested in things like permaculture. So then that creates the right kind of environment that's conducive to that kind of work, and hopefully creates more affordable housing, and we can live in, places where we can be a bit more in touch with our creativity and stuff. So, that's how I see guilds. It's all about teamwork, right? And everybody has a different role to play, and we need to create spaces for that to happen. And really, right from the beginning, the permaculture works. I realised you can't do this alone. And I kind of got fed up of having conversations that we just end up ranting at people. And we've got to do something, right? We can't just keep trying to impose things. We've got to actually create working models that illustrate these ideas and embrace these ideas and contain these ideas, expression of these ideas. Yeah.
So, Steve, permaculture is getting a lot of talk today. A lot more people are hearing about what permaculture is, and increasingly more people are discovering what permaculture is through doing design courses or the whole vast array of media that's available on the web today. Could you please give our audience an overview of what permaculture is?
Well, it's many things. At its heart, it's a design system that's modelled on nature to develop genuinely sustainable and regenerative systems. So, if we're interested in any way, you're interested in sustainability, this is interesting idea of being able to carry on doing what we're doing without depleting the environment around us, then what the model to learn from is nature. That's what we've got. 4.6 billion years of evolution. That's our model for nature, and that we test ideas again to understanding from nature. The thing that drives the diversity of species is evolution, and evolution is a feedback mechanism. Nature tries out lots of random variants, and they interact with reality, and the ones that are successful go forward, and the ones that aren't don't. The permaculture design system is basically based on trial and error and feedback. So it's saying is, look to nature, see the patterns. What is it that makes nature abundant? What is it that makes nature work? And let's generate ideas, knowing that none of our ideas will ever actually be quite perfect. And we'll try them all out, and the ones that work best, we'll go with, and we'll constantly improve on those. So it's an ongoing process that models on nature. And the more you get into it, the more you start to, it's taken me a long time to really get a handle on it, to really understand it, and it becomes more and more fascinating the further you get into it. The permaculture, we're not even interested in sustainability is the wrong word, we're interested in regeneration, right? We've depleted the natural world so much that we can't sustain ourselves at the current levels. We've got to come up with a different way of thinking and behaving, and whatever it is that we come up with has to obey the rules of ecology. We have to live within the can no longer just survive by depleting the mothership, by asset stripping the ecology and expecting that to keep us going long term. That ain't going to happen. Permaculture brings you into that mindset and brings you into those processes.
So I mean, what you just said just makes a lot of sense, because I think for a long while the kind of goalposts have been set at this kind of sustainable kind of future where everyone's sustainable, but really taking a macro overview perspective of the world today, it's not really good enough, is it? Because really, if we get to this level of sustainable, it just means that we're continuing. We're not taking more than we're giving back, and it's just kind of keeping it this equilibrium. But really, what we want to do is kind of think how our ancestors kind of thought in a certain way, and how nature works. If you look at how mycology works and how forests regenerate, so you're actually improving upon the environment which you're living in. It's almost like leaving a legacy. And the Native Americans in North America, I'm sure they had this the concept of planting and designing for the next 7 generations. So you're planning for your grandchildren's grandchildren, in that aspect. So no decision would be taken lightly within that instinct, right? Within that aspect.
Yeah, so there's some interesting links right between permaculture and the whole Roots Project thing. So you're touching on traditional knowledge and traditional culture, and a couple of other points you made. Maybe also think about overshoots, right? Our society, Western society, is just not sustainable. It doesn't matter how many wind turbines and electric cars and LED bulbs, whatever that you create, we can't carry on at this level of intense resource, destruction or consumption. Not possible. But luckily, the majority of people don't live at that level of intensity. So we have to look at models from the majority world. I mean, just mentioned Africa earlier. We just come back from working in Uganda. Those guys emit about 1,000th of the amount of carbon per person as the average American. That's a pretty interesting sort of thing. There's a lot to learn from looking at majority world lifestyles to think about how we might be to live in this more sustainable form. This point about regeneration, I'll be really clear about this, is that we're currently at 406 parts per million carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and it doesn't matter how much we slow down development of it, the planet will carry on warming until we can get the CO2 in the atmosphere down to 350 parts per million. That's going backwards. That's not slowing it down or everybody just, putting a jumper on and turning down the thermostat. It's going backwards in terms of carbon sequestration. It's going to take us 30 years to restructure our economy to do that. And it's going to take us to the end of the century, if we really put all of our effort into doing that, to actually go back into a sort of carbon reversal, where we're sequestrating more carbon, regenerating, by putting back forests, rebuilding soils, and repairing the biosphere. That will get us back to a state that is potentially sustainable. It's sustainable at 350 parts per million. Anything above that is just the world carrying on warming, but at a slightly slower rate. So that's what we mean, the difference between regeneration and sustainability. We won't be sustainable until we've literally regenerated the environment to the point that we're back to 350 parts per million. And I think there's an enormous amount for us to learn from looking at the wisdom of, so your traditional societies that you're alluding to there they were governed by the very same laws of ecology that we're now being confronted with. It was only digging up coal, gas and oil and burning without assuming there would be no consequence, that allowed us to live outside of the laws of ecology. So the traditional societies were really geared to be energy efficient, and one of the ways to be energy efficient is to be socially cohesive, because then everybody's taking care of each other with local resources and maintaining a skill set that enables the continuation of the society without the continual inputs of energy or resources coming in from the outside world. That's the lesson that we've there's no wilderness left. We've kind of looted it, so we're now confronted with what we've got is what we've got.
So lots of people, when they hear the words permaculture, there's often connotations that kind of come up, like how it was almost with me when I first started, before I did one of your courses, Steve, which was, it's something to do with gardening. Oh yeah, I don't know much about that, but it's something to do with gardening. And of course, after you really immerse yourself in one of your awesome courses, then you realise that it's so much more than that. For me, there was a moment where it just clicked, and it was like, whoa, this is everything. This is how nature works. This is how it's really. It seems like a lot of the answers to today's society, which leads me to my next question: is why is permaculture so important as part of the solutions today, as one of the tools that we can use as part to have regenerative solutions on the planet today?
We can't solve the problems of the planet individually. We're only going to be able to solve them by working together, and working together as sort of a long-term strategic alliance over a long period of time. So for us to be able to achieve that, we're going to have to be able to communicate about it. And permaculture is that language that enables us to communicate, to collaborate over the long term. So we all try to live our low carbon, or try to have our least negative impact on the world as we can as individuals, and make wise choices, shopping and buy green electricity and all that sort of stuff. Great. That doesn't change anything collectively, We need a long-term overarching steering mechanism so that all those individual actions actually stack up to be strategic and actually take us somewhere. And the permaculture, if that's an operating system or a mindset or set strategies, then everybody's working with the same strategic rulebook, and it's up to you to optimize that to work for your own personal benefit as much as you can. Permaculture teaches you meet your own needs first, but you meet your own needs in a way in which you don't prevent the rest of your society or community from meeting their needs. You don't do it at their expense, and you don't, as a society, you don't meet your needs at the collective expense of the environment. So you try and do that as an individual, but for us to be able to achieve that at society level, we need to be able to coordinate at a society level. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the real power why permaculture is so needed, because it's a joined up, strategic way of thinking. It's not just a series of ideas or a toolkit. Some people think it's just a solar panel, and it's this bit of gizmo and this bit of compost and a bit of organic gardening, and there you go, that's your permaculture. No, it's not. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of building a long-term strategy and being able to communicate that and to build consensus with other people, because you understand then that you're working to the similar long-term objectives. We've all got the long-term earth care objective in mind. We have to have that in mind. Okay, so you might be saving yourself and saving your community. If you're doing it at the long-term expense of the environment, then that's only has value in a very temporary way.
So, can you talk us through what people might expect if they were to come on one of the permaculture design courses? Can you talk us through the kind of the structure of that and what people generally experience as they go through it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, 1986 or something like that, Bill Mollison, who was one of permaculture's founders, the key founder, observer of what many other people had already figured out. But he embodied it in a book. That book was called Permaculture Designer's Manual. And he came up with the idea of, can we create a peer-to-peer learning mechanism which allows this body of knowledge to be passed on in a whole way, so that the idea isn't what do you call it, sort of depleted in time as you play Chinese whispers, if you like. So that was the idea of the permaculture design course. It's a way, it's a mechanism, if you like, to create a peer-to-peer learning environment, so that we could create many more permaculture teachers. Because if this is how we're going to save the planet, and as many people as possible need to know it, right? So how do we get that out there? Is that through some kind of peer-to-peer learning mechanism? And the idea was that as soon as if you've done, so a PDC, it's supposed to take 72 hours. So if that's a residential course, usually pack that into 2 weeks. I do 12 10-hour days, so I do more like 120 hours. So you come on one of our courses, you work 6 days, and you get 2 days off, and you work another 6 days, and then it's over. And there's 3 phases to the course. So first is you study the principles of natural systems and sort of really understand how nature works, and see lots of examples and demonstrations, and think about working with natural materials and how soils and compost work, growing strategies and stuff like that. And then we sort of more look at the social, how people work together to achieve these things. And then the third section of the course then is a design activity where we actually give the students a design model and a set of design sort of techniques, and give them a real life example to then try and apply the learning that what they've been working with to apply it to a real situation. And then that gives you the actual experience coming away from the course of having not just had some theoretical knowledge, but actually had a chance to apply it. So it's a very practical course, and there's a certain amount of sitting in a classroom, and there's a certain amount of it's a social experience, and the whole experience is usually you're together in a group, 12, 15, 20 people who are at the same stage of personal development as you are, just at the point in their life of asking those same questions. So it's a very exciting, exhilarating environment to be in. And then and you come up with structured learning and resources and networking and so forth. So it's the PDC is designed to create a critical mass, to turn someone who's kind of sitting on their armchair going, I really want to change the world, but I don't quite know how, to getting them to that next stage, to actually applying and living within those aspirations and so forth. So, and it's very designed to be very sort of practical and self-empowering, which it is. I think I've taught 34 of them now, and each one is different. But each one's a huge adventure. They're always significant. I mean, we just had one with 25 people on in Uganda, with people from Uganda and Kenya, and all ages, all backgrounds. I'm mind blown, and then loads of little projects and things have come have happened as a result of that already, So it's about the PDC is about creating critical mass, turning ideas into action, giving you the skills, really practical skills and experience to be able to actually do it.
And that's what's important today, isn't it? It's a call to action. I think a lot of people that they really want to, they feel like they should be doing something, that they want to do something, but it's that first step, and people generally they don't have that kind of see how they can really make an impact on their lives and their communities, and to really make an impact on the earth. And what permaculture certainly did for me is to help me see what's possible, and to envision a world what's possible. Yeah. And it kind of restructured it. It made me readjust my perspective on the world, where genuinely now I see solutions in places where before I've just perceived problems. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most powerful impacts it's had on me personally. It's made me see things from a really different perspective. Now, I guess just kind of as a lead on from that, but perhaps we can take a journey over to Uganda for a minute. And you mentioned it a couple times. You just got back from Uganda, and from what I understand, you're organising. Is it East Africa's first permaculture convergence, which is coming up in May next year as well?
Well, that's what we're hoping to achieve, yes. And it's because we've done 2 PDCs out there now, and we're just planning the 3rd one, and each one's getting a little bit bigger. So it made us realise that after, assuming everything goes to plan, after we've done the 3rd one, that we would have had 100 students there already. And then that's with the people they know and the people they're connected to. That's already a considerable kind of cohort of people. And on the most recent trip, we connected with a wonderful young guy out there, Charles Mugarura is his name. And he actually grew up as an orphan. He grew up in a place called Sabina School, which was the first school in Uganda to have a permaculture program. And some Australians came out there in 2008. And in 2000 did some design work, and in 2010 they came out, did a PDC, and planted about 10 acres of food forest at the school. Really fantastic sort of edible landscape. Charles was just 18 at that point, and it was a pivotal experience for his life. He did this PDC, and he now has a career working in permaculture in Uganda. So, and we connected and we started working together, and we just sort of thought, well, wouldn't it be wonderful to bring these people back together in this place, in this wonderful school that's actually got celebrating its 10th year of doing permaculture? That's this wonderful example there. And Charles has connected us through people that he knew through the school to the Minister for Education for the Kingdom of Uganda, which is a significant thing. So we're touching sort of political and strategic circles, if you like, out there. There's one way I've come back saying it is, to people in the UK, a bit like what you were saying, it's still an idea. Permaculture is an idea. Oh, that's interesting. I'll hang that in the file marked interesting with everything else, Whereas in Uganda, they're directly in touch with the land. 70% of the people are farmers. And if they're not farmers, as soon as they retire from being a teacher or civil servant, they'll be a farmer. It's the only way that they're going to get a pension. So they're connected to it. So you start talking to people about these ideas, and they start implementing them immediately. They don't like to sit around and go, well, maybe in 5 years' time, when we reach peak oil, we might do something about this. They start doing it straight away. So there's already numerous projects started off. So this needs to be celebrated, right? There's a wonderful history of what's going on at this school, and actually somewhere in amongst that, there's a real good news story, East Africa leading the way kind of thing, to be told. So the idea of the convergence is, so trying to create a critical mass of people together in the same place, and broadcast some really positive messages about the potentials of permaculture in that context, and let everyone else, let people join the dots. Especially with schools and linking it into education makes so much sense. It makes sense everywhere, but it makes even more sense there because everyone's a farmer. The schools have got land. There's much less planning regulations and stuff. You can just do things. That's part. I think that's part of why we're really buzzing from having come back from that and seeing those potentials and then looking at the UK and thinking, well, why aren't we thinking like that here? And what could we do here to accelerate that process? Because that definitely, again, is something that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been giving this a lot of thought as well, and looking at perhaps different models that are working in different countries. There's one that really interested me in El Salvador that we saw at the Permaculture Convergence. I think it was the year before last. Naomi and Karen were 2 ladies from Bristol, and they've been out in El Salvador for 15 years, and it's a similar kind of thing going on of what you were just described in Uganda, where when some of these ideas were shared, it would instantly be implemented. And what they put together, they worked with a pre-existing organisation, and essentially they created a really effective demo garden, a garden where people could come and they could really kind of efficiently be taken on a journey through permaculture, through seeing how different techniques, tools, principles were being applied. And what they did is they kind of basically had this as an open demo garden. They invited members from different communities in the surrounding area to come for like an open weekend. So they'd come down for the weekend, there'd be some food and some drinks and some music, and they'd explain what was going on there, because in El Salvador many of the communities, the vast majority, had switched back in the 60s, 70s to a petrochemical form of agriculture, where they're using lots of pesticides and whatnot. And when they could see that, wait a sec, this farm, they're actually producing more food, it's a higher quality value, it's all organic, and they save money on all the chemicals that they're putting in. So when that kind of light bulbs will start to go off at some of these open day events, then there'd be the call to action. So then after the demonstration, there'd be the opportunity for education. And they'd basically say, hey, well, if any of you are interested in taking this back to your community and applying that, we can help supply the education means necessary. And this is what they said. One of the key parts of it is that the community nominated one person who was particularly impassioned and motivated to learn more about this design principles, this design tools.
Yes.
And so then what happened was, the person would come back to the demo garden, and they'd be taken on, I think from my understanding, it was a 6 month to 12 months of permaculture, but it would be like a weekends at a time. So they'd come down like 2 or 3 weekends a month and really kind of get those permaculture principles really deeply kind of ingrained, so it becomes just like a way of a life, not just like some kind of interesting concept that's kind of knocking around your head. And then of course, naturally, as part of their permaculture design project, they'd go back and redesign the community. And as this went on, and they started to employ more methods, like a farmer to farmer teaching method, where farmers would come and they go, wow, that's interesting, how are you doing that? And they'd share kind of the whole ideas behind it. And so that started about 15 years ago. And 8 years into the project, and from what I remember from the talk, which is one of the key aspects of what permaculture, which really excites me, it really kind of gets me going, is the self-managing, the self-replicating aspect, and how nature works, the biomimicry, how nature just starts to replicate itself. And so this whole project, this whole permaculture academy in this part of El Salvador, essentially replicated in a different part of El Salvador that was led by the communities, and they're like, right guys, this is really working here, so let's go and do the same of how we were connected with here, and let's do that over here. And so so it's basically, that's a beautiful, powerful kind of aspect of what I really like about these nature-based systems.
Absolutely. And so this is the model really that we've been teaching to, and what we've learned to do ourselves is, there's no point in proselytizing at people, right? If people will listen when they're ready, okay? So we're not trying to convert anybody. There's no belief required in permaculture. It's just observation. So permaculture requires you to believe nothing, right? It's least of all me. But what we'll do is we'll demonstrate stuff. We'll demonstrate strategies and techniques, and you look at them and go, oh, that's interesting. Now, if that's interesting, then the next step is education. Okay, now you're involved. Now you're interested. How do you do that? Well, funnily enough, here's this, we're all set up to tell you. And then, so demonstrate, educate, and then the third thing, as you said rightly, is then replicate. Is you then give the tools, you enable the people to take it away, and then that's your peer-to-peer learning model. It's back to that idea. So how do you accelerate the spread of an idea is when you let go of it. You allow it to take its own, present its own evolution, to be able to go off and but it needs to have enough structure to it so it doesn't dissolve into nothing after 2-3 generations being passed on, back to this Chinese whisper thing. And that's the genius of what David Holmgren brought to permaculture. He took what Bill Mollison's learning and messages and the synthesis of knowledge, and he simmered it down to 3 ethics and 12 principles, which then gives you an operating system that you can remember and you can communicate. And there's a real power to simplicity. Permaculture teaches, the patterns in nature are actually quite simple, but you keep replicating them and they interact with the environment, and they become, infinitely variable. But there's an absolute relationship between simplicity and complexity. Simplicity of the idea and the complexity of the reality that it creates when you interact with it in your community, with your resources and your skills and your priorities and choices. But whatever it is that you do, it will meet your needs because you thought about that, but it also meet the needs of community, and it will meet the wider needs of the environment. That makes it permaculture. And there's a kind of real genius to it. A part of the genius is the ability to be able to set something free and let go of it and present its own evolution.
Mm-hmm. And then always continuously kind of looking at that feedback and accepting it and integrating it and adapting it to tweak it so it kind of just refines the whole process of how things work. Essentially, it's nature. It's that which cannot be simpler, and that's what Bill.
And the thing is that nature is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
So the tide goes out and the tide comes in. It's not the same, is it? It's similar, but the rocks are being rearranged on the beach a bit, and that prawn's now over there. That will be eaten or whatever. It's not quite the same. So even if you come up with a perfect plan, your plan will only be perfect for a millisecond, because things will change, and then you'll have to adapt it. And actually knowing that is really empowering, because then you then realise this, so my plan doesn't have to be perfect then. It just has to be mainly right, and I have to be open to feedback. So where it isn't right, you'll get information, and you have to use that, and you'll just to refine your plan and let your plan evolve. And don't ever expect it to be 100% right. And if you think it's right, then be wary, because there'll be change coming from somewhere. And all of that's a little bit unsettling, but it's also, it's empowering. It encourages you to get on with it. And we need to get on with it, right? We're in a crisis. Environment is in crisis. The climate's in a crisis. The economy is a lie. We're living in a world of illusion right now, where people believe in things that aren't real, and reality is going to confront itself. We're going to be confronted by reality very abruptly. The consequences of trying to use all this cheap energy and import food from so far away and suppress other countries or whatever else. The realities of that system that we're part of is, that all has its limits. And in the face of all that uncertainty, what can we do? Work from the middle out. Go back to thinking about Zone 0, Zone 1. Where do our immediate resources come from? How do we interact with our neighbours? Those are the things that are actually really real, because we can get feedback. We can see that feedback. How do you know that clicking on that particular petition on Facebook makes change in the world? Was it really worth the effort of doing that? Maybe that just made a bit more money for Mark Zuckerberg than it ever did to him. The point is, you'll never know, because you don't get the feedback. Mm-hmm. It's too remote a thing. In the first world, we're too disconnected from reality. So we can now kind of believe anything we want. Just look it up, Google enough on the internet, and you can find an answer that satisfies you. That's not reality. Permaculture is really retuning us back to just really simple reality. Water flows downhill. Plants grow towards the light. Organic matter decays to compost. These things have, water always, these things all have consequences, and we need to plan around those things rather than live in this sort of made-up world. Or maybe the world will never run out. Or maybe we'll be able to come up with technology to solve climate change, so we don't have to do anything about it. No, I don't think so. Not very likely.
So just zooming out, Steve, and kind of taking a macro perspective, how would a world which has integrated these permaculture design principles, perhaps for a prolonged period of time, how does that world look to you? How do the systems look? How do the houses look? How do the cities look? How do you see that?
Wow, that's an interesting question, isn't it? It'll essentially, people like to say the future will be local. We'll much of what we do and our resources will be produced and consumed locally. Let's say 90%. Who knows how much? It depends how much spare energy we have to trade coffee and avocados and stuff. But it's going to be mainly local for a lot of reasons, and that's a good thing too. I think it'll look a little bit post-apocalyptic, because we'll have to repurpose most of what's the infrastructure that we've built that won't really work without cheap energy, but we won't have enough energy to be able to rebuild it. It's not going to look like some futuristic Venus Project vision of the world, because we're not going to have the energy to rebuild it and everything. So we're going to have to rethink how to remodel. Imagine suburbia that produces 90% of its own food and recycles most of its own waste without any commuting. Probably something like that. Not much. We'll struggle to maintain road infrastructures. We'll struggle to maintain a lot of the infrastructures without a lot of the vast amounts of cheap energy. It just isn't going to be there with renewables. We'll never run out of energy, but we will never have energy in such concentrated forms as to be able to create concrete flyovers and stuff like that. We're not going to do things like that. But hopefully we'll be globally conscious, and we'll still have some kind of internet of sorts of ability for us to think and behave globally as well. You might remember it. There's a video I like to show at the beginning of the PDC of interviewing people who've been out to space, and called the overview effect, and they're kind of looking back on Earth and what was it they thought. And one of them at the end puts it most succinctly and said, we have to begin to think and behave as a single species if we're going to survive on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And understand that we're not in competition with each other, we're not in competition with nature. We have to think and behave strategically as a single species. And so right now that feels quite a long way off. I think permaculture gives us potentially the ability to do that. And we'll think and behave as a single species mainly locally, but our consciousness really does have to be globally, so that we can understand, our relationships as a whole. And maybe we nearly had to destroy our planet to get that perspective. But now we've got that perspective, we have to really hold on to it, because that's it. That's the thing that will kind of save us. So I imagine a world of kind of techno peasants. We might be involved in producing our own food and meeting a lot of our own needs and processing our own stuff and doing community care, looking after chickens and babies and grannies and stuff. And in amongst that kind of a Star Trek life where we're forever bettering ourselves and learning new skills and having maybe very active online lives, or and involved in arts and theatrics and whatever it is, stuff that doesn't take lots of resources. It doesn't cost, you don't need as an energy to write a play or to perform music, or, do you know what I mean? So I think culturally we could live at a very high standard and very interconnected communities and very active community lives. I look forward to it. I think it'd be great. I don't think we'll be able to move around like as much as we do, but occasionally we will be able to. So before they could still sail to Australia or America or whatever, and I was talking about airships and just reimagine the world slightly. The Graf Zeppelin or the Hindenburg could fly from Paris to New York in 20 hours. 20 hours, halfway around the world. I could live that. I could live eating some organic bean sprouts and whatever, working out in the gym or something on my way over, and I could live at that pace. I think, obviously it wouldn't be something you could do regularly, but it would probably be a little bit expensive, but it's possible. I don't see why we can't have a globally interconnected life where we live maybe largely, very locally, very interconnected with our community, and very engaged with food production and everything that goes with that, and social caring. And hey, that might make us whole humans again. Wouldn't that be nice?
Okay, so we've got this event coming up from August 18th to the 20th in Manchester, and Steve will be joining us there. Steve, could you perhaps just give a little brief, kind of overview of what you'll be bringing to the table, what you'll be sharing with the audience there?
Well, I mean, it always depends on the environment, really, but I always enjoy doing a kind of a talk or presentation to set the scene, and get people thinking, and then hopefully to be available to help talk to people maybe on a more personal basis, help them maybe vision their own plans, what they might like to do. I like to talk a lot about cooperatives and housing cooperatives, because that's something that's very empowering, and we spend so much of our time and energy meeting our housing needs in our society, not so much our food. Food's pretty cheap in Europe, in Western Europe, but bloody hell, housing is expensive. And again, going back to this idea of guilds, how do we work together to enable us to escape the rat race a bit, not be running on that treadmill, so that we can work towards operating much more within these values and within the aspirations of creating a better world, and not just, say, running on the treadmill to maintain the current kind of nightmare, So that's what I like to talk about. So I can't quite remember exactly what you've asked me to do, so maybe I need to read the notes. But yeah, sure, I love to do public talks. I used to get pretty engaging and can get people, get people thinking, and then confront, show some different examples. And then, just be on hand to chat to people afterwards and help them develop their own thoughts. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's great. So that's Initiation, the Roots Project Weekender at the Wonder Inn from the 18th to the 20th of August. It's the solar eclipse weekend that weekend.
Is that really? Okay, there you go. That sounds auspicious. How fantastic!
Yeah, it's my birthday actually on the Monday.
It's almost like you found it, Ollie. Yeah.
And so finally, just to kind of sign off, could you let people know where to contact you, how to get in contact with you? Have you got any upcoming courses that people can find out more information about?
We're sector39.co.uk, and I also have a website, permaculturedesign.course.co.uk. We'll be doing an autumn course in Llanrydder, probably inside residential one in a housing co-op, so that'll be nice. And then we're working up to doing a big course in Uganda in May next year, and there'll be some international places on that as well. And all our details are on the Sector 39 websites.
Excellent. I will link to that in the show notes as well, so if anyone wants to catch up on that later. Okay, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time out and chatting with you. I've immensely enjoyed it, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your ideas, and giving people some insights into solutions, some real solutions that are there. I just want to end on that. Is it with the Bill Mollison quote? Is it the problems are evident, but the solutions are so embarrassingly simple? And well, thank you, Steve, and I look forward to seeing you really soon. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, bye bye.